Welcome to the LumiCast, your premier gateway to the universe of limitless photo editing. Dive into the galaxy of Luminar software and the dynamic world of AI photo editing. Join us weekly for a burst of creativity and the drive to transform your photos with confidence and skill. Broadcasting directly from Clever Photographer headquarters, it's time to welcome your hosts, Jakub and Holly Linton.
Hello everyone and welcome back to next episode of LumiCast, our brand new podcast where we talk about photography, photo editing, and more importantly, Luminar NEO. Now, my name is Jakub. I'm landscape photographer based in West Sussex, England. And next to me is my great friend and one of the biggest Luminar NEO fans in North America, Holly Linton. Hello, Holly.
Hi, Jacob. It's great to be here today.
Yes, today's going to be a great episode. We have one we were talking about for quite some time, and Holly will tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
Today, we are going to talk about the predictions and wishes for Luminar NEO, and I will be telling everyone my 5 top wishes for features for Luminar, and Jacob will give some of his predictions.
Wow. We actually had to keep it manageable in the time and length, but truly, how many things or how many features or tools are on your list?
Technically, I have at least 10, but I have for today, we'll cut it down to 5. We can always do another episode.
Definitely. And actually, we were saying that maybe we will record another episode later this year, maybe like November or December, where we will look at our predictions and wishes and see if any of them came true. So, talking about wishes, let's start with the first one.
All right. I'll start with my biggest wish first, is the ability to copy masks in the layers panel. I find that when I have to meticulously mask something, even though we can do object select, sometimes you have to refine things like flower petals or feathers around birds' wings. So I spend all that time getting that mask perfect, add a texture to it, for example. Then I want to add a second texture. Well, guess what? I have to redo that entire mask. So my biggest wish, if anyone out there is listening in Luminar NEO land, is the ability to copy masks in the layers panel. So that is my first wish. What do you think of that?
Definitely. I think it's a big one. Definitely one that is also on my list for quite some time, especially when you start to make maybe more complex edits or more complex composites together. This is when this will be such a lifesaver and time saver. And actually, I was just digging through my old photo manipulation masterclass for Luminar NEO, and I was seeing how much extra time it takes to redo this mask over and over. So I agree with you 100% that it would be great to be able to copy and paste masks between the different layers. So that's a definitely good one. What about the second one?
Second one would be, I would like to be able to see what preset I have used. If I go through my edits panel, it doesn't tell you what you used. And I have such short-term memory loss that I don't remember what I used. So if I wanted to share with someone on social media or my Luminar friends, oh, what preset did you use for that? I have no way to know which one it was. So I feel like some indication of if they could add the name of the preset into the edits, sort of like they do with the mood tool, with the LUT, you could see it there. Maybe is that where it actually is? I have no idea. But in general, I think just to be able to easier see what preset I've used would be helpful.
Definitely. I think that edit tab still has definitely lots of areas of opportunities there. There will be things that could improve. I also think that it would be great to be able to still name the different edits. So, for example, I use Develop tool quite often for simple dodge and burn. So I apply a little bit of exposure with shadow, and then I use masking with the brush and just paint it on different parts. So it would be great to be able to name that specific develop edit, just like, for example, dodge and burn. So then when I want to adjust the edit, I can very quickly just open this specific develop tool, adjust it, and go on. So I think that would be one thing that would be really helpful. And I agree with you that it would be great to be able to see very quickly which preset you use. But I actually have a quick tip here. Now, it doesn't work always, but sometimes when you apply a preset and then you go and continue working with the image, when you go and click on save it as a preset, when you brought back to preset module, the name of the preset there will be the name of the preset you use initially to edit the image. So while this is extra work, sometimes you are able to see what preset you use at the beginning by doing that. So it's just a little workaround. It's not great, but it's a way to find out which preset you use initially. And talking about presets, I'm just going to add my bit here. I would love to be able to apply preset I would love to be able to apply multiple presets on the same image after each other. And the way it could work, if somebody is listening, as you just said, you could basically click on a preset and you would be able to choose if you want to remove all the edits you have done until now. So to basically clean the edits and apply the clean preset from the beginning. Or you could choose the second option, which would allow you to keep the edits you have applied until now and just apply all the preset edits on the top of it. So I think that would be really cool, because I think it's a shame that sometimes you spend lots of time to fine-tuning your image and you would like to use preset just on the top of it, just to add a little bit of an extra feel. And you can't do that because it will just remove everything. So that would be my little add to the presets.
Okay, I agree with that.
What about your third wish?
Okay, I don't know if anyone else has encountered this. I know a few people have, because we've talked about it on Luminar Coffee Break before, but when I zoom in on an image, just say to check to see if certain things are sharp or if there's noise and all that kind of stuff, sometimes I crop in and I say, wow, I wish I could make the image just at this crop ratio. So a feature where sort of a zoom to crop type of crop ratio, I think would be great. I don't know if a lot of people would agree with that, but
it's a great one.
Because it's not a ratio you can really recreate yourself by dragging the corners. Zoom to crop. What do you think about that?
That sounds great. Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. Sometimes it's just because when you use the mouse, it's never really exact how far it's going to zoom or what it's going to do. So sometimes it's a little bit like a lucky touch. Mm-hmm. And when you're there, you're right. You just want to keep that golden view. And that would be great to be able to crop it there. I agree. There was one thing I wanted to ask. I know that probably not everybody will know about the coffee break. Can you just very quickly tell us what it is?
Yeah, Luminar Coffee Break is hosted by Vanelli, who's the director of education for Skylum, every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's called Luminar Coffee Break. It's a 10-minute tutorial of whatever the topic of the day is. And then we talk for an hour or longer about anything photography or editing related. And you can go onto Skylum Insiders to sign up for the link for that, find the link for that. So it's every week. A bunch of us have been doing it for probably 5 years now. And it's just a nice community to interact with and another way of learning.
100%. Because everybody learns a little bit different way, right? So to be able to get together with a community of photographers who are learning, I think that's great. So to that point, let's add a link to this episode of the podcast to the Insider, so maybe people can check it out.
Great.
Awesome. So zoom to crop to zoom. I can already see the tool. What about your next wish?
Next wish. Okay. When I am doing layers and I have to go to the My Images tab to add my image, I wish that in the film strip, we could just click in the film strip to add our desired layer or overlay, whatever. I think that would be helpful because it just saves a step of having to then search your hard drive for that picture. You could sort of have everything pre-positioned if you were doing a composite, or you knew, oh, here, I might want to use these 3 layers and overlays in my image. You could have them already in a folder in the film strip and then just be able to click on it. I just think for some reason, every time I have to add an image and I know it's already there in my film strip, I wish I could just click on it and instantly have it add as a layer. So that's that.
You know, when you first told me, I wasn't sure about it, but then I kind of had a thought about it. And I think that's absolutely great idea. I think that would be very natural and very easy to do. I think it's a brilliant idea. And it's something that it would be great to add as a functionality. And even deeper, I think still that the organizing of the assets in the layers panel still needs improving. Definitely there. Because yes, there are some pre-installed folders, which comes with the asset from Luminar NEO. And you can also actually buy some assets which will be divided into the folders, but you still can't create the folders on your own. So you just keep adding everything into this massive My Images folder, which you can only see 6 assets at the time anyway, or you just have to kind of open it up. And I think it's still very complex, which is a shame because even Skylum itself sells lots of resources and assets. And it would be great to be able to just divide them into different folders and to be able to, just organize them on your own. So simple thing as being able to add a folder, change the name, and then just import that assets into it. So like you have, for example, your moon overlays. So you create a little folder with moon overlays, change it to your moon overlays, and then add them there. So next time when you want to add moon, instead of scrolling through never-ending amount of images in my images, you go straight into this folder and just use them from there. So I think that would be big improvement. And as somebody who creates asset, I know that this would make life much easier for many users out there. So they already fixed the skies. You can now divide them into folders. You can now, with a little bit of maybe extra step, you can divide your LUTs into folders. You can now organize your presets much better by using favorites and so on. So I think this is like the missing piece on organizing the assets in the application. So 100% agree.
I have one thing to add to that also. I find that if you have a lot of images in there and you click add my images or search through your list, a lot of mine are blank. It's as if they haven't rendered yet. So sometimes I have to click in and out of my images a few times for all the images I have in there to populate. So then I've gone in and kind of erased all of them to start over, thinking that would improve the performance of it, but it really doesn't. And they're also so tiny that I really can't see them. So it might say, oh, you already have this image in there. Would you like to use it? And I can't find it. So you can hit keep and replace or something like that. Then it moves it to at least to the first position. Then you can find it. So that's a little workaround of being able to easily search for them. And also the file names aren't on the little icons. You don't get to see the file name until you've already added it to your layer panel. So maybe at least being able to see the file name, because if the picture's missing but the file name was there, you could click on it.
Definitely.
So there's room for improvement there, as you said.
100%. And so if we already on the list here, one more thing I would also like to do is to be able to load more than one asset at a time. Because again, if you're working on a photo manipulation and you have like 10, 15 files ready, your overlays, textures, backgrounds, you have to do it one by one. It just seems very silly. You should just be able to select the files and move them in one go, especially because it really is a question of moving these files into one common folder and then populating the little thumbnail. So we should be able to do it in one go, I think. So good. Let's leave the layers panel, but that was a good set of wishes and suggestions. Do you have one more?
I do have one more for today anyway. So the before and after feature obviously shows us the before and after, but it is missing the fact if we have cropped our image, it does not reveal that crop. I think part of the editing process when you have cropped it, that's part of the wow factor of if you did a before and after, I'd like to see the actual before when you have not cropped it at all. I think that would be a nice touch to have because then you really see the impact of your full edit. It's not really a full edit if they're not showing you that you've cropped it. Like it's not a full before and after. Is it a big deal? No, but it's just on my list.
No, that's a good one. I agree. And we talked about it just before the show. And I think Lightroom, when you do the before and after, will show you the crop included, which, as you say, sometimes you really crop quite tight. So it's a big difference to what you have done. And it would be nice to be able to see. I guess technically, the reason why it doesn't show the before and after, it will probably have something to do with the slider. Because when you do the slider, if you show the pre-crop, it will not have that nice effect where you see the kind of nice changes because it will not align. So it will be all over the screen. So I guess that's the reason. But they should be able to just do one before and after specifically for the eyeball and one for the slider. So that's probably more looking for excuses than explanations. So is that it with your list of wishes?
That's it for those wishes. Yes, I will be sitting with my genie lamp. I guess with him, I only get 3 wishes. So we'll see what happens. But what do you think about your predictions for any improvements with Luminar NEO in the coming months or year?
Definitely. So the predictions are built on obviously being with the company for not with the company, but obviously covering their stuff for the last 3 years and also before, and meeting with different people and just kind of getting a sense of what may come. But I think before we're going to do that, let's do the ad, and then we come back and I will share with you what I think will happen in 2025 with Luminar NEO.
If you're listening to the LumiCast podcast, then we share something in common. We love editing photos, and we love Luminar. It's almost breathtaking what this amazing tech can do for you. On our website, you'll find countless different things to help you be more creative than you ever thought imaginable. From our photo manipulation masterclass to our power bundle with 986 elements, our essential preset bundle, editing software and extensions to our tutorials. Harness the power at the website at www.cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Again, that's cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Now, back to LumiCast.
And we are back for my predictions for Luminar NEO in 2025. I should probably do disclosure that none of my 5 points are confirmed or have been specifically mentioned by anybody from Skylum, so people don't feel like I have access to some special secrets or anything like that. It really is just based on, as I say, the development of the platform, also development of the entire, editing industry out there. So starting from my first point, and this is building on the fact which has been confirmed by Skylum, and that is the fact that Luminar Mobile will be available on Android. Now, the recent announcement or recent information talking about this happening in the next week or two, which maybe means that by the time we air this episode, it will already be available out there. So if it is, that's great. Would mean that now Luminar Mobile can be used on both Android and also Apple devices. And I think that once that will happen, it makes complete sense for me that there will be some sort of connection between Luminar NEO and Luminar Mobile. I don't exactly know how, but I'm assuming that it will be sort of, you are in a location, take a picture, you will start your edit on your mobile phone, and then you will finish it in Luminar NEO. Now, I have a suspicion that it may only going to work one way because Luminar Mobile has a limited amount of the tools compared to Luminar NEO. So while Luminar NEO has all the tools that are in Luminar Mobile, it doesn't work the other way around. So I assume that maybe you will start the edit and you will be able to continue on Luminar NEO. I don't think that it will work the other way back. That's just my common sense use. And I think that is something that would really give a great value to these two products. And I think it makes complete sense. I don't know if it will happen this year or next year, but I really think that would make complete sense. And it will be adding just extra value to the products. What do you think?
I think, well, for starters, it's just going to make the Android users happy because I've heard that a lot. People asking, is it available for Android? So right there, that's an improvement. What you're mentioning about people editing from their phone and then being able to continue the edit on their laptop or desktop, that's interesting because I wouldn't have thought of that. I wonder how many users there are that would want that or use that in their workflow. I know there's a market for everybody. I wouldn't have thought of that people would start an edit on their phone and then when they get home, continue with it. But is that more for professionals or?
Okay, so I will tell you a real life story, actually. A few months ago, I went to London to meet a group of photographers, and we were taking picture of the London Eye, but from really far, which is in Greenwich, that's on the side of London. And with a really long lens, you can take a picture of the London Eye with the sun inside of it. So that's not necessarily a big part of the story, but we were quite far away from the center of London with this group of photographers. And when we finished, we went into the underground to catch a tube back to the center of London. And I was sitting there, and around me was 8 photographers, all on their phone with the card reader plugged into it, with the card from the camera in it. And they were all on their Lightroom mobile. And they were basically just applying same preset to all of them, just quick development, just to see if the image is sharp, if the highlights, shadows are there and everything. And as they were doing it, they were adding a rating to their images. So basically just, every photographer has a little bit different style. Some use 1 star for possible edit, 3 stars for I will definitely edit, and 5 stars for that could be my hero image. So you do that. And by the time we reached center of London, they went through all of these hundreds of images. So when they get back to their computer, they didn't have to go through all these images again. They already had them previewed, marked, and they were just able to then edit the ones that were worth it on the big screen. And basically, ultimately just saving time, doing it on the tube because there was nothing else they could do. Okay, we could chat, but, it's just a way of speeding the time, basically, and being able to preview if you got the shot you were going for. So I think that is my experience from real life. So that's how I see it happening.
Okay, interesting. I learn something new every day.
All right, that's a plenty about mobile and Neo. Let's move to the next one. My two next predictions are built on basic fact that pretty much every year, Skylum bring one new tool for landscape and one new tool for portrait tools in the application. So the landscape tool, simply because it's something that I've been asking about and I've been hearing about for quite some time, is the long exposure enhancer or creator. And in a very basic way, if there are some people out there who use, for example, iPhones, there is this kind of feature you can press and it creates long exposure effect. It smooths the water or it smooths the sky or create this kind of soft streak of thing. It's just basically smooth the image. So my prediction is that we may see a tool which will be able to replicate that without the need of using long exposure on your camera. Is it going to happen? I have no idea. Nobody told me, but I think maybe that could be one thing we could see.
Well, if that happened, wouldn't you be sad? Because then you really wouldn't need to use your mystical tool.
It's hard to say because this is one specific effect or look I really like to do in camera. I think that's more for that. But I don't know, not sadness. More tools, the better,
No, okay. Yes. No, I think it would be great. And I've used that in you have to be in live view on your iPhone to be able to use that. I've tried it with a waterfall specifically, and it is really neat. So I think that would be a good feature.
Definitely. I agree. So I hope that we will see that. My prediction for the portrait tool or portrait tools is that I think we may see, I don't know if one or two or few tools coming from Aperty. I don't necessarily know if it will be same quality or same speed, but I think it would completely make sense to maybe take tools like maybe the skin wrinkle removal or the makeup enhancer and place them into Luminar NEO. Why? Because I think they already have the technology, and two, because I think some of these tools will be really handy to have in Luminar NEO, so I think that would make sense. I know that they will have to be tools which are less computer demanding or your gear demanding, simply because, again, talking about the idea of Aperty is that it really is just focusing on portraits. So Luminar NEO is focusing on many other things and it's a kind of bigger edit. So it would have to be tools that are possible to bring over. But my prediction is that I think we're going to see one or two portrait tools coming over from this application to this one.
Okay. Well, you know how I feel about some of the makeup tools. So we'll just leave it at that.
So that it's moving me to the fourth point, and this is more general prediction, looking at Photoshop and ON1 and other photo editors out there. I think there will be coming more AR-driven or maybe generative AI-driven tools. I can't necessarily put my hand on what it's going to be. If it's going to be more like, maybe like GenSwap or something like that. Or if it's going to be something like, this is something I was thinking about the other day, and that was maybe they will create a tool which will basically do more fuller edit automatically for you. So in one of the previous episodes, we talked about the auto adjustment in a develop tool. That was the latest update. But I think they may be going to create like an auto edit tool where you will just press the button and it will do the develop tool for you and number of other tools automatically and randomly based on your photo. So I think that maybe is something we're going to see, or maybe one of the generative tools. I'm not really sure, but I think it will make complete sense if they will go for one of these.
So you feel like they kind of keep up with whatever Adobe is doing or whatever there really is out there as far as keeping technology up to speed. They want to keep up with the Joneses is sort of the term we use in the United States.
Definitely. I think that's the case. I think they always try to take a feature and try to kind of make it in that Skylum way. So it's intuitive to use and it's easy to use. And, it can be applied to multiple different photography genres. But yes, I think that there are certain things that they just need to keep up with. And you talk about it again in one of the previous episodes, that the fact that when they first announced these generative tools, you were not so sure about them, but actually you understand that it makes complete sense that they are there because it's almost like a standard now.
And you think that the goal would or should be, I would like my customers to not have to go to any other software. They should be able to use one software for all their needs. To me, that should be a goal for them.
Well, and that brings us nicely to the fifth prediction, which I really hope is true. This is again building up on interview I did with Ivan Kutanin, the CEO of the company back in December. We talk about basically the performance of the application and the software and the fact that the software is still quite large. It's like 4 or 4.5 gigabytes to install. It can be also quite slow on maybe older computers or when things are not set up right. And you can definitely encounter occasional crashes, some more occasional than the other, depending on the computer again and the user and so on. And I really hope and wish, and I am pretty sure that they will continuously work on improving the performance of the software and the application, because I feel like they've done lots of things right with the software. They improve lots of stuff, and it definitely is much further forward from when it started 3 years ago. But this performance is still something that is putting unnecessarily shadow on the application, because when you speak to somebody, when you start to talk about the editing possibilities, they will be like, okay, fair enough, it can do all of this. But there will be always the but it's not working, but it's slow, and I think it's a shame. And I really hope that they will work on it.
Yes, I would agree with that, because a lot of, we'll say the word complaints that I see on Facebook groups would literally be about performance. Like, it's crashing my computer and, all the negative chatter about it. But it is a real thing. People aren't just making it up. So like you said, whether it's their computer system or there's a lot of bugs that still, I guess, need to be fixed.
Great. Wow. So we have came up really with 5 wishes and 5 predictions. My crystal ball is telling me that it will be maybe mix of the two. Maybe we will see 1 or 2 from the wishes and maybe 1 or 2 from the predictions. We'll see. I hope we see at least some. As I say, I think it would be great fun if we would come back to it later on this year. I think it would be great. Talking about later on this year, you have 1 month to go until your class.
I do. I'm doing a presentation, a Luminar NEO presentation for Hazel Meredith's Creative Virtual Conference, which takes place on June 21st and 22nd. It's 13 hours of education, all different guest speakers, all different sorts of topics. So the link will be in the podcast if anyone wants to register for that. And it is recorded in case you can't make it live. So it's my debut Luminar presentation. So I'm nervous, but excited.
Excellent. We can't wait. So one more time, there is a link to join Holly in the description of the podcast. And that brings us nicely to the end. So this was great. Thank you very much, Holly.
Thank you.
And we will be back again next week on Friday with the next episode of LumiCast. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Now, there's only 3 things left to do. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Visit our website at cleverphotographer.com/LumiCast to see what we have in store next. And stay creative and keep editing your photos no matter what anyone says.